Now let's discuss the Romantic period in the year of 1820 and 1860. Around the year 1820, Romantic movement, which originated in Germany but quickly spread to England, France, and beyond, reached America. During these years, Romantic ideas centered around art as inspiration, the spiritual and aesthetic dimensions of nature, and metaphors of organic growth. Romantic claimed that art, rather than science, could be the best way to express universal truth. During this era, exceptional artistic effects and techniques were developed, such as the sublime. It is an effect of beauty in grandeur. For example, a view from the top of mountain produced a feeling of awe, reverence, vastness, and power beyond human comprehension. Writers in this era are called transcendentalists. Transcendentalists are the people who accept ideas not as religious beliefs but as a way of understanding life relationship. Their knowledge are from intuition and imagination. They trust themselves to be their own authority on what is right. Transcendentalists promote intuitive and spiritual thinking instead of scientific thinking. They don't need a logic explanation to say that their statement is true. They believe that spirituality should come from the self, not organized by religion. They also believe that the nature is beautiful and should be respected, so it means that we don't need to change nor improve it. So when do we say that something is transcendental? Examples are the religious experience. This is typically manifested in prayer, scenes, meditation, or paranormal vision. Transcendentalist movement, or also known as Transcendentalism, it is a movement or reaction against the 18th century rationalism. So it means it rejects rational thinking or reasoning because in Romantic period they believe in something even without a scientific explanation or any other reason. They believe because they believe because it's nature's process. This movement is the manifestation of the general humanitarian trend of 19th century thought. It's the celebration of nature and the common man. The movement was based on the belief in unity of the world and God, where the soul of each individual was thought to be identical with the world. This movement is a doctrine of self-reliance and individualism developed through the belief in the identification of the individual soul with God. The Transcendentalist movement have many beliefs, but these all fit in their three main values. First is individualism. I believe that society in its institution, particularly the organized religion and political parties, corrupt the purity of the individual. They believe that humans are inherently good but can be corrupted by society and institutions. Another is idealism. It is a view to object in space as outer in the empirical sense, but not in the transcendental sense. In the empirical sense or observation, they reject object in space wherein they base on experience, so they will only believe or accept what they see or experience. Unlike transcendental sense, they view object in space as part of life. They automatically believe even without seeing it. They believe that that object is there in accordance with nature. And lastly is the divinity of nature. They believe that it was crucial to have a close relationship with nature, the same way with religious leaders preach about the importance of having a close relationship with God. Transcendentalists saw nature as perfect as it was, where humans shouldn't try to change or improve it. So here are the major transcendentalist writers in Romantic period in year 1820 and 1860. First is Ralph Waldo Emerson. He is an American essayist, lecturer, philosopher, abolitionist, and poet. He is the leading exponent of the Transcendentalist movement who called for the birth of American individualism inspired by nature. He was also considered as the most influential writers of the Romantic era. Here are some of his famous work. The essay Self-Reliance is the 1841 essay which explores the values of transcendentalism. It contains a thorough statement about the need for each individual to avoid conformity and false consistency is to follow his own instinct and ideas. He explains that people must believe in themselves because the true direct knowledge can only come from within. In his essay, he stated that a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, which may mean that you should not allow your current ideas and opinions to be dictated by what you used to think. Only those with little minds are afraid to change their minds when a better idea occurs to them. A person needs to grow and change to fulfill his potential. Another work that he wrote is The Oversoul, an essay that was first published in 1841, with the human soul as its overriding subject, with several themes such as the existence and nature of human soul, the relationship between the soul and the personal ego, the relationship of human soul to another, and lastly, the relationship of human soul to God. Emerson asserts that God's Spirit is present in our every conversation. Another essay he wrote is Nature. It is an essay he wrote to express his belief that each individual must develop a personal understanding of the universe. According to him, people in the past had intimate and immediate relationship with God and nature, and arrived their own understanding of the universe. I think he wants to say that people in past have a better connection with God and nature, wherein they even had their own understanding of the universe even if they didn't physically saw it. But what do you think is the reason why people in past have better relationship with God? If you were to ask me, I think it's because of their love to nature. They show their love to God through loving and caring the nature. Another work he wrote is Concord Hymn, a poem claimed to be one of the most famous opening stanzas in American literature. This poem is commemorating the battle in Concord, the site of the Battle of American Revolution. Concord was the first rural artist colony and the first place to offer a spiritual and cultural alternative to American materialism. Where do you think is Emerson's insights are from? These spiritual insights of Emerson comes from his reading in Eastern religion, especially Hinduism, Confucianism, and Islamic Sufism. Now let's move on to the other transcendentalist, Henry David Thoreau. He was an American naturalist, essayist, poet, and philosopher. He is one of the leading transcendentalists. He is of French and Scottish descent, born in Concord, and made his permanent home there. His masterpiece is Walden, or Life in the Woods. This book results of his living with 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days in a cabin he built at Walden Pond, a property owned by Emerson. In Walden, he tests the theories of transcendentalism and reenact the collective American experience of the 19th century by living in a frontier. In his book, he shares what he learned about solitude, nature, work, thinking, and fulfillment during his break from modern city life. Beside being productive, the experience of Thoreau turned out to hold so many lessons that he decided to publish the full story, separate book about 9 years later. It filled with rich details and few lessons about good life. Here are some important lessons I found to remember. A life in solitude doesn't need to be lonely. Even simple life can be challenging and rewarding. Fulfillment doesn't cost a thing. In this statement, it simply said that living alone is not lonely. In real situations, simple life can be challenging. There are so many problems like money and etc. But sometimes it is rewarding because being simple or living in simple life, it makes us happy even in simple things. I think that is rewarding. Fulfillment doesn't need a cause in a way like fulfilling our spirit through being alone, having time with nature, breathing with ease, like Thoreau who simply wants to reconnect with life in a deeper and meaningful way. His goal was to spend much time on reading, thinking, and writing as he could. All the thinking, writing, and questioning to find the truth leads him to true fulfillment, yet none of this cost a single cent. According to him, he went to woods because he wished to live deliberately, to front only essential facts of life. The result of his book, Walden, is a series of essay or meditation. Thoreau extolled the benefits of literature in reading. His book, Walden, achieved tremendous popularity in the 20th century. Another work that he wrote is The Civil Disobedience, the theory of passive resistance based on the moral necessity the just individual to disobey unjust law. This work was inspiration for Mahatma Gandhi's Indian independence movement and Martin Luther King's struggle for Black Americans' civil rights in 20th century. He argued that government must end its unjust actions to earn the right to collect taxes from its citizens, added that individuals must not permit a government to overrule or atrophy their conscience. His motivation in writing this was his disgust with slavery and the Mexican War. Another transcendentalist is Walt Whitman, an American poet, essayist, journalist, and humanist. He was often called the father of free verse. He was part of the transition between transcendentalism and realism because he incorporated both transcendentalist and realist ideas in his work. He championed the individual and the country's democratic spirit in his Leaves of Grass. Leaves of Grass is his professional writing. It was first published in 1855, which contains the Song of Myself. It is considered the strongest evocation of the transcendentalist ideas. Here is a sample in the Song of Myself. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me, as good belongs to you. For me, the poem is about finding your identity, becoming friends with yourself, and sharing with others, since the atoms belong to everyone. He tells about how Whitman celebrated himself and wants the entire world to celebrate with him. He emphasizes that every parcel of the earth belongs to everyone. Next is a woman transcendentalist, Emily Dickinson, a radical individualist who found deep inspiration in the birds, animals, plants, and changing seasons of the New England countryside. She had written 1,775 poems, but only one was published in her lifetime. She explores the dark and hidden art of the mind, dramatizing death and grave. Now let's discuss the Brahmin poets. Brahmin refers to the priestly caste within the four castes in the Hindu caste system. Boston Brahmin poets refers to patrician. These are the person who comes from a family of high social rank, a Harvard-educated literary who sought to fuse American and European traditions in their writings. One of the Brahmin's poets is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, an American poet and educator who was responsible for the misty, ahistorical, legendary sense of the past that merged American and European tradition. He is the first American to completely translate Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy and was one of the fireside poets from New England. Here are his writings. For long narrative poems, including Evangeline, about a young Arcadian girl and her quest to find her lost love named Gabrielle during a time of expulsion of the Acadians by British. You can click the link provided to see the poem. Next is the Song of Hiawatha. It is about the fictional adventures of an Ojibwe warrior named Hiawatha and the tragedy of his love for Minnehaha, a Dakota woman. Another writing he wrote is The Courtship of Miles Standish. It is about the days of Plymouth Colony, the colonial settlement establishment in America by the Mayflower Pilgrims. He also wrote lyrics such as The Jewish Cemetery at Newport. It is about the ambition of a teenage Emma Lazarus unites with an awakening sense of her ethnic heritage. Another is My Lost Youth. This poem is associated with the memories of Longfellow's youth. Another is The Tide Rises, the Tide Falls. It is a story of a mysterious traveler who rushes alongshore as the sun sets. Another Brahmin poet is Oliver Wendell Holmes. He is a physician and professor of anatomy and zoology at Harvard, claimed to be the most versatile among Brahmin poets. His work are the collection of humorous work such as essays like The Autocrat of the Breakfast Table. Another is novels like Elsie Venner, biographies of Ralph Waldo Emerson, and verses like The Deacon's Masterpiece or The Wonderful One House Shape. Here are some of the other transcendentalist writers in this era: Nathaniel Hawthorne, a novelist; Margaret Fuller, a feminist writer; Bronson Alcott, an educator and father of the novelist Louisa May Alcott. Lastly is William Ellery Channing. These transcendentalists published a quarterly magazine which is called The Dial, which lasted 4 years. So that is for today. Thank you for listening.